Welcome back to part two of Catch Some Soulshine with Julie Alsaker. I learned so much from her in part one. And in part two, I had to start jotting down some notes during the interview. Did you know? Okay, everybody knows that sugar is addictive, leads to cancer. Refined sugar is not good for us, right? Did you know that there's something that is even more toxic that is symbolized as healthy foods? Well, you're going to learn about it today. Grab a cup of coffee because you're going to get a lot of information in this episode with Julie Alsaker. What do you mean genetics? How do people figure that out, and how does that play in our health and well-being?
Thank you. I appreciate that question, and thank you for having me on the podcast. My mission in life is to implore people to get their genes tested. And that is because when you get your genes tested, you have your DNA, you know which genes you have, and every gene, think of it like a city where it has houses all over. Those are SNPs. I'm not going to go into all the science, but a single house SNP being different than what it should be, being a variant, can have substantial influence on how you think, how you experience emotions, how your body deals with stress, how it detoxifies. A lot of times it'll require many variations to have an impact, but sometimes there's just one and it has a big impact. And so you might go around all day long feeling tired. And you're doing everything right. You're eating perfectly, you're avoiding toxins, you're a positive person, yet you're exhausted. And then you start to feel bad about yourself. And this is my probably core reason for wanting people to have their genes tested. They're feeling like they're failing because somebody else is doing the same things and having results and they're not, but they don't understand that it's how they're made. When we have that information, when we get the reports, and you can get a short report from one company or you can get a huge report from other companies. When you get that information, for me, with an MTHFR variant, I don't methylate B vitamins properly. Well, now that I know that, I take methylated B vitamins. So instead of having 30% access to my energy, I have tons of energy. No amount of perfect eating or anything would have made that happen. I had to know that my gene didn't function the way that other people's genes function. So that's what I do. I get the information and I make it applicable to their healing journey, whether they're near death or whether they're an exceptionally healthy person that just wants to stay there and they want to know the long-term impact of genetic variants in their life. When you have a vitamin or a mineral that you don't process correctly, what some people don't understand, especially with things like depression, postpartum depression, right? A woman has a baby, her body has sucked the minerals out of her for this process. These minerals are required for the development of neurochemicals that the serotonin, for example, 70% of serotonin is made in your gut. So you need a healthy gut biome. Healthy gut biome needs vitamins and minerals to feed the biome, develop the serotonin, and then you have the ability to express an emotion that uses serotonin. If you don't have the ingredients for the chemical to be able to express the emotion, you don't get to have the emotion. Your body can't make it. So when people have wonderful lives, right? A brand new baby, or they're a famous millionaire and they're terribly depressed, some of it can be, core beliefs that they need to work through, trauma. We're not discounting life experience, hugely impactful, but we also can't ignore the other side of the coin that for some people, it's not this easy for everybody, but for some people, if they just took a mineral, just a mineral once a day, a mineral supplement, that their emotions could be heightened and they could experience life through a clear and exciting lens versus this dull lens that they're pushing through all the time. So we have to look at both sides of the coin.
Right. And you mentioned the healthy gut biome, and I've done some research on that. I had another podcast guest on, and that's her thing, the gut biome. And American diet is toxic
It's
for
so
the
bad.
gut. It's
It's
so
so bad.
bad for our
It's
gut.
not even real food.
Yeah.
It's food
Yeah.
like it's so bad.
Yeah.
I've been teaching on the gut biome for over 20 years now. And if people understood how in other countries, I went and I spoke in another country last year, and American food had recently come in to this country, and American diseases came in, cancers and diabetes, and where American food goes, American disease follows. All right, so that should be an indicator. If
Mhm.
people understood the catastrophic impact for disease that they wouldn't feed it to themselves, they certainly wouldn't feed it to their kids.
Right.
And I always tell people, because they're overwhelmed, they're like, well, what do I do? What are the macros? I don't care about macros. I don't care about weight at all. Eat food that your great great grandmother would recognize.
Yeah.
Start with that. Would she recognize Cheetos? No, she wouldn't. Would she recognize McDonald's? No, she wouldn't. Just start with that, and then you will feel the difference. Because the food has been developed to be addictive, you have to work through that addiction, and you might need support. But when you get to that place where you're actually giving your body what it can recognize and it's not simultaneously poisoning you,
Mhm.
their lives will change.
Well, in Alan Carr's book, he specifically talked about that. We have reprogrammed our brains
Yeah.
to believe that fast food is the best tasting. Chips are so good. But in reality, if you take a potato chip, let's just think about this. It's greasy, it's thin, it's salty,
Mhm.
and you take an apple, which one is more? The apple has a crunch. It has
Mhm.
a sweet flavor.
Mhm.
It's full of fiber and nutrients,
Yep.
and the chip is empty.
It is totally empty.
But we've been totally conditioned to believe that the chip tastes better than the apple.
One of the largest career fields, highest paying, is food scientists.
Mhm.
And when the cigarette industry collapsed, I mean, it's still there, but it's not what it was. Many of those scientists went from the cigarette industry into the food industry. And there are thousands of scientists working every day to make things as addictive as possible.
Yeah.
And they won't, well, actually, I have a video of one of them saying, yeah, we make it as addictive as possible. And somebody came in and goes, oh, no, no, no. We just want them to come back for more, trying to fix the narrative.
Yeah.
No, you said it the right way the first time. But you look at a McDonald's French fry, I believe, and this could have changed, but I believe the last thing I read was 19 ingredients in a French fry.
Yeah.
Okay, that should be 3: potato, salt, oil. And even oils, let's look at the processed seed oil, right? So it's processed in a way that makes it rancid. So then they add detergent to get rid of the smell, and then they add
Mhm.
bleach to take care of some of the, I don't know, bacteria. I don't know why they do what they do, but it is used in such a way that they add these chemicals to make it not reversing rancidity, but so that you don't taste the rancidity.
Mhm.
And I have been on I started my refined sugar is poison Pinterest board in 2020. No, I'm sorry, 2001. But as of 2020 is when they are starting to say that they actually think that refined seed oils are more cellularly damaging than even sugar is, which is big
Mhm.
in my world where sugar is evil. And now it's like, wait, there's something else.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
you use avocado oil. If anybody's wondering, coconut oil, avocado oil,
I was,
um, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, not heated.
yeah. Yes. Yeah, olive oil. Dr. Gundry says, who I follow him.
Good for the heart.
Yeah. He said, um, food is just a way to get olive oil into your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one thing, I've been making my own sourdough bread,
Yes. I
and
love
I
making
love
sourdough.
it. And so I stopped buying butter.
Yeah.
And Barry's like, "What are we going to eat on this bread?" And I go, "Well, we're going to use some olive oil, and I got some spices to put in it, and you can dip
Mhm.
it."
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, this is really good.
It's
I'm
what
like,
they do at the fancy restaurants. They pour the
yeah,
olive oil and put a little parm in there.
yeah. See, you don't need it.
Yeah.
You don't need the butter, but it's a
I
mind.
I do for my biology, just putting out that I eat a lot of grass fed. I
Mhm.
do animal products because my biology thrives on it, but other people don't necessarily. That's why when someone says, "How should I eat?" I go, "Eat real food." And
Yeah,
then I'm not going to give any more indication because you don't have to get your genetics done to know what to eat. It's either going to make you feel good or it's going to make you feel lousy. And if you eat dairy and you feel lousy, then your body doesn't want it. Then
yeah,
stop. If you
yeah,
eat it and you've got energy and you don't have any negative side effects, then and it gets more complicated than that because there's A1 cows and then there's A2 cows and their
yeah,
proteins are actually different. And then cheese that's aged 18 months versus cheese that's aged less than 18 months. So we can get into all the nitty gritty. The fact is, just start with real food. If that's
mhm,
all you do,
yeah.
wildly effective.
And I will say one pointer that I learned about the cheese is cheese isn't bad for you. We
Mhm.
have this a belief in some of these diet cultures that,
Mhm.
oh, cheese and milk are bad, but the American cheese
Yeah. Oh,
is
that's not cheese, it's oil.
is
It's
not good.
rancid oil.
So if you really want to eat cheese
Yeah.
that's good for you, get a good Italian Parmesan
Yeah.
cheese or a
Yeah.
cheese that's processed from goat's milk in
Yeah.
Switzerland or
Yeah.
something like that because they don't put the stuff in there that we
Right.
do.
Or if you have access to raw milk cheese is and again organic raw milk cheese, you can get into the nitty gritty, but the American cheese, I'm not understanding why they're allowed to call it cheese because I don't actually think there's any dairy. It's oils and flavoring, synthetic flavoring,
Mhm.
and synthetic coloring.
Yeah.
And people wonder why their kids have bad behavior,
Mhm.
they're obstinate or not able to pay attention. It's neurotoxins.
Yeah. In our foods, our
Mhm.
fruits. Yeah. So do you do a lot of coaching with particular diets with people when they get their testing done?
I, with my clients, when I do their testing, it depends on if I do an executive assessment analysis, and that's for the healthy person that just wants to make sure that they keep their path to staying healthy. That's just here's the information, do with it what you will. Then I
Mhm.
have the clients, like one of my newest clients, when she came to me, she in the last 4 years has had over $1 million of medical bills paid by the insurance company, in the ER at least 4 to 6 times a month. And I've been with her now for 3.5 months, and she has not been to the ER since. And so the first thing we did is we got the American cheese. Literally, I saw that like on the counter of Velveeta cheese, and I went, "You've got to be kidding me! How
Yeah.
has nobody told you that you can't consume this?" So
Mhm.
we cleaned out. We just changed the food, and then immediately, not that she's better. This is going to
Yeah.
be a process,
Well, sure.
but that's what I will do with her. Is I did her DNA, and so we get out the toxic stuff, and then we work based on your blood work and your symptoms, your disease, because maybe she could have something like, let's say she can't have dairy right now. That doesn't mean that it's because she biologically can't have dairy. It can be from a progression of a disease that's destroyed her gut lining, and we have to do some rebuilding. So
Mhm.
that's what I do with people. I don't ever put people on a diet.
Mhm.
It's this is the current situation, this is the information we know. And then I also use muscle testing, which is what the crazy natural lady used on me when I was 15, and it changed my life. And it's interesting because from my conservative background, some people go, "That's amazing, what a gift from God," and other people are like, "Oh, you can't do that, that's bad," because they don't understand it. I'm like, "Give
Right.
me 16 hours and I can give you some scientific basis, even though there's not scientific consensus." But I will have a person hold the food, and I will measure if they are stronger or weaker. We do the O in my house. You guys can look it
Mhm.
up. O muscle testing. I believe it was a Chinese doctor started the use of this, but I'll do this in the grocery store with my kids when they grab something and they're like, Mom, can we buy this? It's organic. And I'll look at the ingredients, and I already know, looking at the ingredients, they're not going to test strong, but I humor them. And so we pull each other's fingers in the grocery store. And I know one person, not my client, another practitioner who I collaborate with, they had a client that had no extra money to be able to pay for supplements, to be able to even go for more appointments. He taught her how to muscle test. And in 1 year, she lost 100 pounds by just eating food that didn't make her weak. If you hold a jar of sugar and have someone pull your fingers, good luck trying to keep them together. Unless your energy is, it's rare. Every once in a while, a person's energy is opposite, and then you have to work with that. But 99% of the time, I can pull this party trick out of my pocket. I've been using it for 20 years. It's fun at any party. Give me a thing of sugar, give me an apple. Let's see which one. And these bodybuilder guys will be going, no way, there's no way. And you hand them sugar and they cannot keep their fingers together. Because our body, our cells, just like they recognize when you put your hand on a stove and it's hot, it recognizes what's bad for you. And so it either will make you stronger or make you weaker. And so we will look at the biology, we'll look at the current situation, we'll have a general guideline from that. And then I always say, how do you feel? And muscle test. And I do that with supplements too.
And I think that when you talked about the intuition earlier, that plays a huge part in it. And intuition is like a muscle, right?
Absolutely.
The more you use it, the better you get. So it goes along with meditation, prayer, being open, removing all the clutter from you that's blocking you, and that intuition will grow. I had a guest on here, and she called it her psychic abilities are really improving. And, I don't care what you call it. You can call it psychic abilities. You can call it connection to God. You can call it intuition, but everyone has the ability to improve their intuition if you do the things that you need to do or you can do to make that stronger. So when you talked about the intuitive process with this, I'm like, yes, because that's what you really need to get this going.
Absolutely.
Make changes.
And when a lot of practitioners, doctors are left-brained, and that's wonderful because they're the ones that are really good at giving us research, right? I'm not going to do the research. I want to go stand outside and dance and eat dandelions out of my yard. So we need that left brain. But then when you take the person who is a creative and has developed more of their instinct or intuition or whatever semantics, I'm totally with you, whatever semantics you want to call that, when you bring them together, the science and the intuition, I will look at stuff where this person that had been to 30 doctors and the Mayo Clinic, the one I'm working with right now, that's not a difficult case, but a difficult disease. She's like, well, they looked at this. And I said, I don't care that they looked at this. I'm going to look at it because I'm going to look with a different perspective. It might not make sense, but if it yields results, then we're going to go with that. Because if the options are dying or trying, we're going to try. And if we need the intuition to lead that because the science or the medical, we've run out of options. All right, let's hop on the intuition train. And so I use that with all of my clients. I can't fathom doing genetics and blood work without that creative, intuitive side. But I also know that I haven't come across other people doing it that way. And I wish I could because it's so hard to describe what I do, because I'll tell someone that I do genetics and blood work and they'll be like, oh, someone looked at my blood work. It's not the same.
No.
It's not the same.
No.
And people can take advantage of the tests nowadays that are available to them. You can walk into clinics and get your blood work drawn. You can use Dr. Mark Hyman has created a site now called Function Health, where for $500, which if you know how much blood work costs, if you do a lot of it, it's $15,000 worth of blood labs for $500. And you get these 100 markers drawn. Anything that's out of optimal, they'll redraw in 6 months. It will give you information. And yeah, you might have to Google what some of it means. It'll give you some information as well. But for those that are not in a place where they can invest in an expert to take them down this path, that doesn't mean you need to sit there and go, well, I just don't get to know.
So you talked about the right brain, left brain. And another way of looking at that, and I was just journaling about this, is feminine energy versus masculine energy.
Yeah.
Recognizing which side you tend to lean on, and I tend to lean on the feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
The masculine energy is just as important. It's logical, it's healthy boundaries, decisiveness. And
Yep.
by examining that and looking that up, I can look at things that I need to work on in my own personal life to make me more holistic and play both of them. I love that you talked about that because that's something that I'm actually working on with myself right now.
Well, and then the healthy masculine and a healthy feminine, because you can be in an unhealthy masculine where you have to prove
Yes.
your worth, right?
Yes.
I have to explain everything I can do for you in detail because I have an unworthiness trauma. And so I have to go into my unhealthy masculine versus I can have both and they can both be healthy. And I can lean into what I need to lean in the moment without letting the core wounds dictate which one I'm going to jump into. I love that you're studying that. I would encourage everybody to study that. It's really
Yeah.
impactful.
So how does somebody work with you if they want to dig deeper into their genetics and then have this intuitive coach to guide them on certain processes or whatever that they want to improve in their life?
I have a website. My company's name is Lux Bioanalytics. I like Latin. I taught my girls Latin. So Lux is light, biology, life, and analytics is what I do. So you go to that website, luxbioanalytics.com. All my services are there. I have everything from a free Facebook group where people have access to ask me questions, guesting on podcasts. I'll throw that link on there. I have a book, but I have a workbook called The Extraordinary Woman. There we go. And that's on Amazon. And I wrote it rather quickly, but it was in a spur of feeling so frustrated with women staying small and even in my life staying small. And you can't help people when they don't know you exist. And I was like, goodness sakes, I'm going to be an extraordinary woman. And then it covers different mindsets and just kind of exploring what's out there to learn more about. And then my programs are there. And then just Facebook, Julie Alsaker. I put most of my stuff on my personal page.
All right. So I want to end this with this. We're both in the book, Radical Freedom. What does radical freedom really mean to you?
In the past, I would have said health because health is my world. But I answered that question recently with love. The one word answer that people are searching for in their life, when you attain that, is when you're free. I heart everything on Facebook because when I show love to people, when people show love to me, when I have loving relationships, I'm unstoppable. And when you're unstoppable, you're radically free. I'm just going to be the crazy natural lady in a bubble of love and heal people.
I love that. Thank you. And that's probably why we connected, because I was loving on your posts and vice versa.
And I was loving on your post.
Yeah. So that's great. Thank you so much for coming today. I got a lot out of this, and I know you're going to help a lot of people. So
thank you.
I told you, check out Julie's website, luxbioanalytics.com, and I will have that down in the notes for the podcast. Also, I always ask if you could please leave me a comment on this video, like and subscribe to the channel. You got to hit that bell. As Brinley says, hit the bell, and I will see you next week. Have a good day. Go catch some soul shine.